I believe an eye riddle was in play in the poem. An eye riddle example. I make two people out of one. What am I? A mirror. So I believe there was an eye riddle used in the first and fifth stanza to define what it is in the second and third stanzas. You have to solve for the I to get the it. As I've gone along in there, as you see, the Yellowstone River goes along as it enters the border of Yellowstone Park in there. And with my treasures bold, there's lots of treasures along the river, the lake itself, fishing bridge area, mud volcano area, and sulfur caldron, Hayden Valley, Grand Canyon, of course, with the two falls, and many more. And you look at the last line in the first stanza, hint of riches new and old. Of course, the old riches are the features we just looked at, and the new riches have to do with his treasure. So let's look at the fifth stanza. So why is it that I must go? I, being the Yellowstone River, and leave my trove for all to seek. The river is leaving a trove of good treasures for everyone to seek. Lots of visitors visiting these treasures. And as I already know, I've done it tired and now I'm weak. This is sort of interesting because the waters of the Yellowstone, Yellowstone merges into the Missouri River, but the waters travel thousands of miles to get to the Atlantic Ocean. I think this is a pretty good example of done it tired and now I'm weak. Now that we've defined I as the Yellowstone River, we have to apply it as it in the clue stanzas. So we'll use it as it, and we'll use it in the first line, beginning where warm waters halt. Now that we've defined it, we can look for where warm waters halt. The first clue. Well, to do this, we look at all the warm water features along the Yellowstone River and the lake. There's a number of them. But the last one, as the river flows, is Calcite Springs. Calcite Springs is where all the warm waters halt on the Yellowstone River. From there, we'll take the river into the canyon down. Not far, but too far to walk. So, to me, not far, but too far to walk is the other side of the canyon and further down. And I'll explain the why. So, we're just going to continue down the canyon until we find Homo Brown. For me, Homo Brown is Lamar River confluent to the Yellowstone River. The river is susceptible to thunderstorms, which can muddy the water for several days. The brown water in the Lamar River affects the Yellowstone River, turns it brown as well. Therefore, the Lamar River is the home of brown. Remember, we have to affect it. It is the key word, and Lamar affects it by turning it brown, home of brown. So, after finding this location, we must put in below it. Below the home of brown, there's a couple of spots we could put in. One is at the bridge by the road. I did search down here, down by the river. But another spot over here is a picnic area that leads to the trail, the Yellowstone River Overlook Trail. And if you put in there, head down the trail, you'll be working your way back toward Calcite Springs. Many have speculated that, where warm waters halt and the blaze can be the same thing. This is what I think may have occurred, where warm waters halt, Calcite Springs, or where warm waters halt and the blaze are both Calcite Springs. So as you're walking down the trail and you see the blaze, Calcite Springs, you can see the steam coming from it, and it's really It's really identifiable as you're hiking down the trail. There's a spot that's about 200 feet off trail here that you can actually walk down to. It's a small little incline and then flattens out some, and you can actually overlook and have a good view of the canyon, calcite springs, and such. So um, to me, this is where the treasure could have been. Do I know that it was there? No, but it could have been there, and it would explain why it was wet because, as I said, there's a incline running down, and as much as it rains in Yellowstone, water would have been running down this hill onto the treasure chest. If you keep walking past this area where I think the treasure could have been, you'll run into calcite springs and these large boulder rock spike formations that jut up out of the canyon really high into the air, and they're really cool rock formations. So when he says in the poem, just heavy loads and water high, I think it could be referring to these things, these rock formations and calcite springs as water high because of the temperature. And so, again, this is if you've walked past this area um, where the treasure could have been. By the way, speaking of animals, there are a lot of animals in this area, mostly marmots. There's some other animals that frequent this area, but we saw probably at least a dozen marmots running around. It was crazy. But we had a good time searching for the treasure. In the years that we searched, we found lots of cool things off trail and lots of cool other treasures in nature. So I'm just going to leave that with you. This first picture is me climbing through some trees off trail. I got stuck under this one. It was a crazy adventure, just like every adventure I've been on looking for this thing. Anyway, thanks for listening.